Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affair Analysis for 13th May 2020, and these are the articles we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Hindu and it is titled Riding Roughshod Over State Governments. So we have had many crises in the past which tested the foundations of our federal democracy, but none of them was as harsh as this pandemic. So when India's success in defeating COVID-19 actively rests upon center-state collaborations, it is important to stick to this commitment of federalism, which is currently witnessing certain strains. So let us have a look at what happened till now during this lockdown phase. The center was issuing directions to the states through the DM Act or the Disaster Management Act, and they had very little power to dilute these instructions. They only had more power to increase the severity of the restrictions imposed during this lockdown. So what the central government has done is classifying the entire district as red, orange and green. So this is the direction that states received from the center. Certain states raised concern because an entire district was marked as a red zone just because there were a few clusters in the district. Marking an entire district as a red zone will severely restrain the economic activity, and these concerns have been raised by state governments. Even in states like Kerala, which witnessed significant fall in the number of cases, when they issued a new set of guidelines for the state, the center did not take the state of Kerala into confidence. So this centralized approach is a problem for the federal structure, because the significant aspect that we have to take into consideration is health is a state subject. We have to trust our states. So the writer of this article argues that this is defying the federal structure of the constitution. Now even in Godfrey Phillips versus State of UP, the Supreme Court advocated the doctrine of harmonious construction while legislating on state list, union list and the concurrent list. So this doctrine states that a provision of the statute should not be interpreted or construed in isolation but as a whole, so as to remove any inconsistency. So even Article 73 and Article 162 of the Constitution says that the center and state governments have the power to legislate upon an issue only in the jurisdiction that they have. That is, the central government in central, that is the union list or certain issues of concurrent list, and state governments have the power to legislate in state list. Disaster management as such is not found in any of the lists. So therefore, according to Article 248, the residuary power given to the parliament allows the parliament to legislate upon disaster management. So even if we argue that since the center legislated upon the Disaster Management Act, it can impose the directions on the states, but we also have to remember that public health is explicitly a state subject. This implies that states have the exclusive right to legislate and act on matters concerning public health. So thus the center's guidelines and directions to the states for dealing with the pandemic will trench upon the field of legislation and executive action of the states. Therefore, the central argument of this article writer is that the center is encroaching upon the rights of the states to legislate upon issues that are leading to public health. Now, federalism is a basic structure of the constitution. Therefore, the center cannot violate this basic structure of the constitution. At the same time, we also have to learn that there is an act called the Epidemic Disease Act, which empowers the state government to take actions to contain this COVID-19 crisis. However, as far as the interstate spread of disease is concerned, these particular act will not give the power to the central government to handle the issue. Therefore, it has used the Disaster Management Act. The author says that this is unconstitutional and therefore the states must have a larger power. That is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is taken from the Live Mint and it is titled Arogya Setu and the Value of Syndromic Surveillance. So, what exactly is Arogya Setu? It is an Indian COVID-19 tracking mobile application which was developed by National Informatics Center, which comes under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. This is very important for your preliminary examination. Please make a note of this. So, what is the purpose of this? The first purpose is to spread awareness about COVID-19 and the essential prerequisites that are necessary for a safe and healthy living. It also talks about the various precautions that people should be taking. It also connects essential COVID-19 related health services to the people of India. So this is the basic information about this app. So how does it function? It uses GPS to track your location, and whenever you come into close contact with a person who is infected or is suspected of having COVID-19, it alerts you. Now this is done using Bluetooth technology. So for this device to work, or for this app to work, you always have to keep your GPS and Bluetooth switched on. Now the government has made it mandatory for a certain set of individuals as per a directive given in the Disaster Management Act. So all the people who are residing in the containment zones, all the government and public sector staff, all the employees who are working during this lockdown, stranded Indians abroad who were brought back through this Vande Bharat mission, and travelers who are traveling in special passenger trains. All these categories were included in a mandatory list which requires them to install this Arogya Setu app. Now there is a controversy regarding the safety of this app because the source code was not revealed and there is a allegation that the government might misuse this data. So let us try to understand the importance of having syndromic surveillance. So after the outbreak of various epidemics across the world, especially in the US context, a term called syndromic surveillance came into existence, and it talks about various methods of detecting population health indicators that are different before confirmed diagnosis. So as the name indicates, it tries to raise alarm about certain symptoms which are a precursor for a particular spread of disease. So its purpose is to assess the size, spread and velocity of a disease outbreak. So with the advent of big data into our information technology world, we can collect data on an individual basis, and this is where Arogya Setu comes into picture, because the possibility of using data in our day-to-day life and making policies is humongous. We can now collect this data at a scale giving us an unprecedented ability to detect infectious diseases early. Now, if we take a recent example, on March 4th, 2020, the Assistant Commissioner of New York City Department of Health noticed that the seasonal flu that significantly attacks the population of New York, the number has come down this season. But at the same time, there has been a significant number in the rise of patients who are complaining about the same set of symptoms. So, coronavirus or COVID-19 has not struck New York then, but the commissioner was pretty convinced from the symptoms that COVID-19 has definitely entered into New York City. So, he sprang into action. But sadly, no one heeded his warning, and by the time governor ordered a lockdown on 20th of March 2020, it was already very late in New York. So the importance of early data is more significant in the Indian context because of the high population density across the country. We have to learn from our experiences elsewhere like New York so that we don't repeat the same mistakes in our case. Most of the technological solutions developed in connection with this COVID-19 they were designed to break the chain of infection. So most of the apps that we saw are limited to contact tracing and containing the persons who are already infected. But data sciences can actually give us an insight into the next cluster where we can observe this outbreak and therefore take necessary measures. So earlier this week, the government of India gave out some remarkable statistics on how data is collected by Arogya Setu and how it is being used. So by analyzing the local history of the infected and aggregated people who have early symptoms, the government has released data saying that based on the self-assessment that people took, they were able to identify nearly 650 hotspot clusters where the infection could have been much worse. So out of this 650 clusters, 130 hotspots predicted by the app were officially declared as such by the Health Ministry 3 to 17 days after they were first identified by this Arogya Setu app. So this syndrome mapping shows the impact that Arogya Setu can have on the early detection of this disease. So the underlying important point that we have to note here is, in these times of surveillance, the time in which a particular model gives us result is also equally important, because biotechnology and microbiology will give us accurate data, but it will be too late by the time they come out with the results. So data sciences have this ability to detect early outbreaks of this disease and contain them. Right now, when there is no vaccine available in the world, the best way to handle this is use data sciences through the help of app like Arogya Setu. So when we are passing judgments about the efficacy of apps like Arogya Setu, we have to consider this timeliness aspect as well. Unless and until we have data on time or beforehand, we cannot take necessary measures. However, there were also certain issues raised. For example, it is imposed through an executive order without any legislation. It is being regarded as a sophisticated surveillance system, and the security vulnerabilities are also raised by certain social media users. So a particular user by the name Robert Baptist raised a concern about the security vulnerabilities in Arogya Setu app and also gave the details regarding the people who were infected at the Prime Minister's office himself. So the app's terms of service provides blanket limited liability on the government. So there is no government accountability in this aspect. So this lack of accountability and the fear that it might be misused needs to be addressed by the government. No matter how efficient the system is, accountability and transparency cannot be taken for granted, and therefore government must come up with a formidable mechanism that addresses all these issues raised. That is the gist of this article.